And on the other hand, we're going to talk about some teams that they're going to have new quarterbacks coming in. They have a lot going on. Who is going to play quarterback? You talk about New England, Chicago, Atlanta, Denver, Las Vegas, Pittsburgh, Washington. Like, all of these teams are coming into this season. Is Drake May going to start? All right, we know Caleb Williams is going to start. How good is this team going to be with him? Everybody keeps saying they can't remember the last time a first overall pick has come into a better situation than Caleb Williams. So right away when I hear that, I'm like, oh, there's going to be so much pressure on this guy. Generational talent everybody's been speaking of. And now they're saying this team is good enough. They just need him to come in. I think I look at one of the teams that, for me, I look at Atlanta. Bring in Kirk Cousins. You thought you had a good team. Now it's like, all right, we're gone. We should be good. We should be great. And then you talk about Denver, Minnesota, Vegas. They're in these kind of new eras of we kind of have somebody here that we think we might play, but we also have this new shiny toy of, do we throw them out here? What do we do? So it's very interesting. I always think this position, and for so long in my career, I never had to think about it, right? We always had Tom Brady. You go, and then Cam Newton comes in, but he doesn't come in until like July with COVID and everything. Then the very next year, Mac Jones starts. Then, all right, Mac Jones has a good year. Now the expectations are through the roof for him. It's like, oh, he's had the best rookie season since so-and-so. Look how he compares to Brady and his rookies. And you're just like, damn, like this is really hard to find a guy to come and play quarterback. And I think for these teams now, you go into the season, this is a big question. Like, you go into the summer, you have some time, you come back for training camp. All eyes are going to be on these teams every week, every day. I mean, you're going to look and you go on Twitter, you're going to see all the beat reporters. So-and-so was 5 of 6 in 7-on-7. So-and-so was 4 of 11 in 11-on-11 drills. And I always used to laugh at that, but that's the attention that's going to be drawn to these quarterbacks every single day during training camp. And Russell Wilson is going to be compared to, how did Justin Fields do? Drake May is going to compare to, how did Jacoby Brissett do? Like, all of these things are going to show up. And Denver is going to be Stidham, is going to be Zach Wilson, is going to be Bo Nix. Like, you're going to hear all of these names every single day, that I just think those question marks are going to just continue all the way for these teams until they get to probably like 3 or 4 weeks into the regular season.
Yeah, no doubt. And, I go back to what we were talking about before, the importance of the mentality of it doesn't matter. If you're in the mix, if you're one of those guys, none of that stuff matters, that racket outside of you. What matters is you learning it, you getting better, you taking advantage of your reps. And, I know it sounds like coach speak, but that's what you're trying to instill in guys. Is get that stuff out of your consciousness and lock in on what you need to do. And if they have the right people around them, they'll adopt that mentality and you'll see them at their best. To me, the big stories are what you just talked about. 6 of the first 12 players taken in the draft are quarterbacks. And so I reflect back on that and you say, okay, is this the 83 draft class? Is this John Elway, Dan Marino, Jim Kelly, Tony Eason, Todd Blackledge, Ken O'Brien? Is this that group of guys? Marino got drafted on the bottom of the round. So it was 6 guys drafted over the course of the entire round. This is 6 out of the first 12. So along with 7 new head coaches and what they do, we touched on that earlier. It's okay. Let's get our eyes on these quarterbacks. And some of them are going to play right away. Caleb Williams is going to play. I wouldn't be surprised if Jaden Daniels didn't play right away. Drake may or may not play right away. I don't think Penix does. J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix, they're going to be in the mix right away for these teams. So what kind of environment can their coaches create for them? What kind of environment can the personnel people create for them with the people they have around him? Can they take the burden off of these guys? Can these guys respond to the scrutiny of being an NFL quarterback as they're learning it? A lot of these guys are experienced college players where they've taken a lot of snaps, and I think that will help in their transition. But we're going to find out real quickly. Coaches bringing in new cultures, that's going to be a story for me. These young quarterbacks, how much do they play? That's going to be a story as well. And it's going to be fun to watch. You said it. Caleb Williams is going to have an immense amount of pressure on him. He played at USC. He's incredibly talented. They have good talent around him in Chicago. But still, you know this better than I do. The transition from college football to the NFL, I don't care where you played, how much you played, it's different. The level is different. And he's going to feel that. And so it's incumbent upon the Chicago coaching staff to create the kind of environment where they can have success. We had Dak Prescott in 2016. We drafted him in the fourth round. He was the third string quarterback. Tony Romo got hurt. Kellen Moore got hurt. Dak is starting that year. And, we were fortunate. We had a good team. We had good offensive linemen, a Hall of Fame tight end, big-time receiver. Zeke Elliott was his runner. We played good defense. But Dak was incredible. And the thing that I would say more than anything else is Scott Linehan, our offensive coordinator, did a great job spoon feeding him, not in a negative way, but he didn't throw the whole thing at him. He said, okay, this is what he can handle. This is what we can handle. And then it grew, and then it grew, and then it grew, and it grew over the course of the year. And he handled it really, really well. I'm not so sure I would have been able to do that quite as well as Scott did. It was really organic how the whole thing happened. Can these coordinators do the same thing for these young quarterbacks? Give them stuff they can handle, stuff they can execute, push them. Don't lower their ceiling, raise their ceiling, but give them stuff that they can digest and go execute on Sunday. That, to me, is a big question for each of these teams. And the other question is, are these guys good enough? 6 out of the first 12. Are they the 83 class, or is it just these teams needed quarterbacks and these were the guys coming out? We're going to find that out too. I think some of them are going to be really good. I bet some of them have only okay careers. The stats on drafting quarterbacks high tell us that. So we'll see how it all plays out. The other big looming story for me is one that people might be a little tired of is let's go back to the Chiefs. Can the Chiefs three-peat? You know how hard it is, right? There's a lot of scrutiny of their team. They did an amazing job last year. They weren't playing well at the end of the year. They kind of reset their feet, and they were phenomenal in the playoffs. And to me, it goes to the leadership of Andy Reid, the quarterback play, and the leadership of Mahomes. Those guys were off the charts. Can they reset and do it again? It's a long year. There's more noise around their franchise. There's a lot of things happening off the field for them. Can they kind of take a breath, lock in, focus, and do what they need to do and go win it again? And now you have two new head coaches in the AFC West, a couple new quarterbacks. There's a lot of other things going on. So we'll see how they handle it all. But, along with the new head coaches and the new quarterbacks, to me, everybody's going to be locked in on what's happening in Kansas City to see if they can do what no other team's ever done.
And what I love about Kansas City, the sense of urgency. They always seem to have like this sense of urgency, even if it's not going well. They don't, from the outside looking in, we're all in panic mode. Last year, we kept saying, I don't know what this team's doing. They're done. But like they have this quiet sense of urgency of we're okay. Like we know what we need to do. We're not okay because we think it's just going to work out. We're okay because we have a plan. We're going to go to work. So while you're panicking and you're saying this and that, Patrick Mahomes is in practice getting those receivers together. He's letting them understand what we need to do to take the next step. Rashee Rice, this is what you need to do last year. This is what we need. All right, front office, you know where we need to go? We need to go get McCole Hardman. We need to bring him back. And I'm not saying this guy went out there and made a ton of plays, but he made 2 big plays in the Super Bowl. Gets the game-winning catch, has a 53-yard catch earlier in the game. Like those small things that they do is that sense of urgency of like, we need to do this, but we don't need to panic. We don't need to go crazy. We just need to do what we need to do to get us in the best position to go out there and win football games. So I agree with you. I wrote that as my last thing. Chiefs Kingdom. Is it going to continue? Are they going to fall short this year? But there's no reason not to continue to pick them. And I think 2 teams that I think are very interesting this year are going to be the Jets and the Falcons because they're 2 teams. They didn't make the playoffs last year. They both came in with pretty high expectations to the season. But now because of injuries and what you lost, and then, Kirk Cousins coming back off injury, Aaron Rodgers, Mike Williams, all of a sudden, you're not just like, hey, we expect this team to be better. We expect these teams to go win divisions, go and compete, possibly be contenders. Like that kind of pressure when you're still trying to take a step of making the playoffs, winning your division and competing for your division, that's a lot to put on a team, especially I look at the Jets and I'm like, all right, Aaron Rodgers has to stay healthy. Mike Williams is going to be a great piece. He has to stay healthy. McCourty, he has to come in and show as a rookie receiver to be able to bond and mesh right away with Aaron Rodgers. It didn't work out in Green Bay with those young receivers, and we see what those young receivers did last year. It just didn't work, and I think any veteran quarterback, it's hard for young receivers to get up to speed to what they expect because they've been playing for so long. So I look at them, and I'm like, okay, the Jets, they have a great defense, but New Yorkers, New Jerseyans, whatever you want to call it, they want this team in the Super Bowl. They want them to go win. And I just think that's a lot of pressure. Our producer's on right now, JK. He's sitting there like, I want to see my Jets in the Super Bowl. I want them to win. And I look at Atlanta. Yes, Kirk Cousins coming back is awesome. They didn't just bring Kirk Cousins in and put him on a team. They went out there. They went and got Mooney. They went and got Moore from Arizona as receivers. Two explosive, fast receivers to add to Drake London, to add to Kyle Pitts, to add to Bijan Robinson. So now you have this team where a lot of people felt like, hey, with that first round pick, go get defense. They don't do that. But they're really saying we can go score. And I think the last part of the Atlanta team is Zach Robinson. He's a part of the Sean McVay tree, was in with the Rams as their offensive coordinator. Very similar to Kevin O'Connell. He leaves. O'Connell goes to Minnesota, has great success with the offense with Kirk Cousins. Now Kirk gets to come in with Zach Robinson. Zach Robinson was drafted into New England when I was drafted that same year. Smart offensive mind, former quarterback at Oklahoma State. I think he's a guy that he has to have a great connection with Kirk Cousins. And this offense needs to get rolling because that was the big thing last year. Everyone felt like the offense could be more productive. So I'm looking to see, hey, are these two things real? Can these teams really be contenders? Are these questions, are they fair? Like, I'm really looking forward to watching these two teams in their respective conferences and divisions.
Well, again, to the conversation about eliminating the noise, the Jets have to do that more than anybody in the league this year because there's so much expectation for them. And I think as impatient as people have been about the Jets getting back to respectability and to a championship, to have Aaron play 4 plays last year, it's like the whole thing has been put on pause. And it's like, and they've been waiting 365 days. So that impatience has only increased. I wonder if how much Aaron has learned from the experience of just being there and not playing and, learned about the other guys, learned about the system, learned about his relationship with coaches and players. And he's a really smart guy, and just process all that. And does this give him a better chance to have success now? So we'll see. We'll see. I think he's made a lot of connections in that building that will help him going forward. The positive thing is they play really good defense. So I don't think there's going to be this incredible burden to outscore everybody. But when Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback, there's an expectation that we're going to throw it, we're going to be aggressive, we're going to attack, we're going to score points. And so how quickly can he get on the same page with everybody? And can they eliminate the outside noise? Because they're going to have their ups and downs. Do you add to it within the building, or do you just insulate yourself from it and go to work? And at the end of it, you come out of it and say, hey, we played 17 games. This is who we are. I hope they're able to take that approach. I love the fact they went and got Tyron Smith to play left tackle. I have a affection for him. I still think he can play. He played at a high level when healthy the last few years. So hopefully he can stay healthy. That will solidify them up front. And again, so much of it is about spreading the burden. Good defense will help spread the ball around. They have young receivers. They got a couple veteran guys. Hopefully Aaron can stay healthy and they can show people and shut a lot of people up. I'm certainly pulling for them. I think it's a good story. With the Falcons, they're exciting. I think everybody's been talking about the skill they've assembled, and there was some disappointment in how much those guys were used the last couple of years. So hopefully Zach Robinson coming in from the Rams, it'll be a quarterback friendly environment for Kirk Cousins. I do think there's some familiarity because Kirk was in the system with Kevin and all of that. So it's not going to be like he's coming in and this stuff feels foreign to him. I think it's going to feel really familiar to him. And I think Zach will be smart enough to look at the tape in Minnesota and say, this was good. This was good. This was good. Let's put all that stuff in. Mm-hmm. This wasn't quite as good. Maybe this doesn't fit. And I think he's really going to form fit it and make a really comfortable environment for Kirk to play. And I think Kirk being there, a veteran guy with those young guys, I think he's going to show them the way in a really positive way. You do have to play defense. I get concerned a little bit about there's going to be a lot of burden on that offense to go up and down the field and score points and win in shootouts. But that's how they built it. I do think they have some skill that's able to do it, but the skill has to mature. The tight end was the 4th pick of the draft a couple of years ago. He needs to show up. He needs to be a big part of this thing. The runner, the receiver. They've added veteran receivers. So there's going to be plenty of skill. Kirk's going to know how to use it. I think he's going to be a good environment. The one thing that I hope is not a distraction is the Michael Penix thing. Yep. If you're a Falcon fan, you ask the question, okay, I get it. We want to build for the future. Kirk's 36. He's coming off the Achilles, all of that. But it's pick 8. Top 10 pick. You can really help yourself in other places. I love Penix coming out. I love how he plays. I think he's got a bright future. It just feels like they're stacking up. I hope if they have a bad game that they're not calling for Penix. Yep. Kirk should run this team. He should be the quarterback of this team, and that transition should happen when it happens. But Raheem will bring a positive energy to that team. They'll play hard for him. They'll play with a good spirit, and hopefully they can play good enough defense so the burden's not completely put on Kirk Cousins in the offense. But they'll be a fun team to watch as well.
Yeah, and my last question, I think, going into training camp is call it holdouts, hold-ins, contract discrepancies. And I look at some of the bigger names. Is Trevor Lawrence going to get an extension in Jacksonville? Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco. They just paid Christian McCaffrey. So I'm sure he's sitting there like, am I next? I look at T. Higgins and Jamar Chase in Cincinnati. You got Tyreek Hill and Tua in Miami. And then Dallas has CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons. And I know for me as a player, I always felt like, hey, I get it. My time hopefully comes where I can get a new contract. When those guys are going through that and they're trying to figure out what's the best way to get paid, hey, when they come back, we'll try to jump right in stride and we'll try to go and win football games. But I always wonder from a head coaching perspective, sometimes, on certain teams, the head coach is very involved in the negotiations and trying to figure out the contract. Other times, the head coach is just sitting there telling the general manager or the owner, hey, just get this guy back into training camp. Like, we need him. I want him here. And I've always been interested, for you, how was that if you had to deal with that? How did you kind of talk to the player, talk to the team? How did the training camp process go with that?
I think in general, it's best if the head coach stays out of those things and let the business people take care of the business. You're serving a lot of different masters. Ultimately, your job as the head coach is do what's in the best interest of the team for the short term and for the long term. So your initial instinct is get the guy in here, pay him whatever we need to pay him. That's sort of a thing. I always wanted the players to know that I supported them. We had a lot of guys over the course of the year, like most teams do, that their contract is coming up and you want them for the long term. But you have to make the right decisions for the organization. So if they're the right kind of guy and they have bright futures, let's get the guy signed. Let's get him in the building. Let's make him a part of this thing. Let's make him have some ownership in the football team instead of alienating him and being kind of at odds about these things. I always felt like preemptive strikes were good. The salaries are not going down in the NFL; they're going up. Yeah. Right. So the longer you wait, the more you're going to pay. Okay, this guy made this. Your guy's going to make a little more than that. That's just how it is. I mean, the quarterback thing in the last 2 or 3 years, it used to be paying a guy in the high 20s was a lot. Now it's 55. It's like,
Mhm.
how did that happen? And it's only getting higher. So getting in quicker and earlier, I think in general is better. You want to make the right decision. You don't want to be rushed into it. But, being ahead of it, being ahead of the curve helps you in the long run. So, and then the other piece of it, to your point, is when you get into training camp, you don't want these things lingering over your overhead. And as a coach, you always talk about, hey, we all understand this is a business. Guys are taking
Yep.
care of their business. He's working hard. He's doing what he needs to do. And you're talking to the player about, hey, I get it. We're supporting you, that sort of a thing. But once you go, this whole thing is going to start. We're practicing. So we need to make sure that you're working hard and do what you need to do if you're not here with us right now. So you're having those honest conversations with guys, because ultimately guys understand where they are. They want to maximize their opportunity to make money during their prime. You get that. It's important. But then you want to get them focused back on playing, because that's ultimately what's most important. It's what's going to make them the most money. So you're straddling all those things in your conversation, supporting ownership, but also supporting the player, and then keeping everybody focused on football. And I just think being honest and genuine is the most important thing in those conversations, and trying to put the team first as much as you can.
Yeah, man, I definitely agree. And I would say all the players, if you're watching, hold in, don't hold out. Stop letting them take your money. Go to camp, just sit there, don't do anything, train on the side, but don't go lose money, because it's different now with the new CBA. You can't get that money back. So I'm always blown away why guys skip it and don't go just to lose $100,000 when you could just go and not participate. It's so interesting to me. And I know we're both the old guys now that don't understand what it means, but I'm just like, hold in. Like, we always talk about, don't lose money, don't give money back. So very interesting thing.
Just listen to Warren Buffett, the value of compound interest. Take that, whatever it is, that little lump sum of money that you just gave away, and just let the compound interest work on it for a little bit. We're going to have a lot more money for a long time. And like you said, you never get it back. So I like the hold in thing, because it can give you the best of both worlds.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.